Awesome. Well, thank you, Brett. I'm loving seeing everyone's lovely faces. So thanks for turning your cameras on. If you're tired, it's okay. You can turn them off. But it's nice to see a few faces there. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to have fun today. We're going to talk about travel, my favorite subject. And I've got some photos and some few things to show you and a lot of blabber. I'll try not to talk too much. I want to hear your questions though, so feel free to put a question in the chat if you ever have a question as we go, and I'll answer them as we go. Perfect. Okay, well, welcome. This is how to create a career making compelling travel videos. I'm Juliana Broste. Everyone calls me Traveling Jules because I'm always on the move, and I'm a travel host and travel filmmaker. I don't need to show you a bazillion photos, but just a few. That's me. I'm in Uzbekistan, traveling in faraway places like Australia, working in Austria. This is a really neat Via Ferrata and a spa. I've been to South Korea, trying on a traditional hanbok and eating Korean food. Who doesn't love Korean food? Uzbekistan. I didn't even know it was a country until I showed up there, and I learned so much about Central Asia. It was amazing. Bali, been on island time. It's really lovely. I've been to Russia, Moscow particularly. There's a lot of Russia I haven't been to. Morocco, loved getting to see the Sahara Desert, and those kaftans are actually super cool, like for temperature and cool to wear. Mexico, look at that! I'm swimming. I'm actually taking a selfie in this photo. Pretty wild times. Getting my tripod set up for that shot, and Grenada. This was actually this summer, a little Caribbean island, the last Caribbean island in the chain. Canada. Okay, I'm going to stop there. This was the last place I was before the pandemic. As you can tell, I love adventure. I love to be on the move. I love to just throw myself into any situation and see what happens and bring my cameras along for the adventure. So I want to share with you a quick little overview of sort of who I am and how I got here. So then you guys have some context to all the advice and tips I want to share with you as we talk about travel video today. So hope you enjoy this little backstory here. In a nutshell, I guess it goes way back to me being a child. Little kid. This was the first commercial I was in fourth grade.
Fun times.
I'm not going to show you the whole commercial, but I was not a child celebrity by any means, but just the neighbor needed a kid, and I happened to be one, and I got to be in a commercial. And fourth grade, took us 10 hours to make one 30-second commercial, but I was hooked. I just loved the lights, the cameras, everything. And I knew at a young age, like, this is what I want to do. So, going to school, I was in TV production. I was like a high school news anchor. And eventually I got an internship working at Channel 4 in Denver, KCNC CBS 4. And there's me in my high school yearbook holding a reflector. So it was a pretty big job for some of us at a young age. And I saw this guy named Greg Moody, and wow, I was like, he is so cool. How do I get that job? He's doing stand-up sitting in a pool. It just looked amazing. And I knew at that time, I was an intern at that station, and I knew I wasn't interested in television news in any shape or form, but I loved video production. So I was always curious, like, how can I do this job? What job in this whole station interests me? But I just wasn't sure, like, I wanted to cover the news. So I was actually lucky to be able to work with some of the features people and sort of see how journalism works in a TV station. How does the sales department work? How does the promotions department work? I even got to do cool stuff like go to the Emmy Awards and see how I was like the statue babe. I got to hand out statues to all the professionals in town. And anyway, I learned about this industry, but I wasn't sure how I fit in. And so kind of carrying my interest in television forward, I studied advertising in school, and I ended up loving college. I went to CU Boulder, and I didn't want to leave. It was so amazing. And a bunch of my friends were going to study abroad. And I was like, why? Why would anyone travel? Because this is the coolest, most fun we're ever going to have in our life is college. And I took some advice from some friends and said, okay, if everyone's studying abroad, what's the big deal? I didn't even have a passport. I wasn't really sure what am I missing out on? And so I did a lot of research, and every person I asked, every single person I said, should I study abroad? They said yes. And I was like, why? You don't even know me. How do you know that I should travel? And I don't know why I ended up studying abroad, taking a chance, really getting out of my comfort zone. I went to Sydney, Australia. And this is where my world changed, is I realized, holy crap, this world is incredible. There's so many fun adventures to explore. Like I got to hold a koala. Right? The soft, cuddly little guy. I saw Steve Irwin at the Australia Zoo. I really was out of my comfort zone, but in a wonderful way, I found a new me. And so I came home thinking, how the heck can I do this? I want to travel more. How can I do that? And I bet you everyone here in this room, because you're here, you have probably felt that feeling of I'm traveling. How can I do this again? Right? Or I want to go there. I've seen that cool photo. How do I do that? And that's what I took as my guiding North Star is I want to travel. How do I do that? And I ended up graduating a little bit early because of my study abroad. And I went to Vail. I went to Vail to be a snowboard instructor. And what's funny about that is I wasn't really a good snowboarder, but I just thought it sounded like a cool adventure. And when I was in Vail, it's a very international place. I don't know if anyone here has ever been there. People have name tags from all countries of the world: Austria, Bulgaria, Hungary, England, Australia, New Zealand. And I made friends with people from around the world. And I was like, hey, can I sleep on your couch? Right? It was like the best way to be home as a local, but also feel like I was traveling because I was embracing the culture of travel and the spirit. And in that experience, I heard about this super cool thing called the Travel Channel Academy, which is how I got connected with the founder of the VJ here at VJ.com, who was running a boot camp for people who wanted to be travel journalists. And I said, oh my God, that sounds so cool. Sign me up. Well, it's funny because I saw that as an incredible opportunity to work for the Travel Channel and become somebody in travel. And the workshop was actually kind of expensive, and I just didn't know if I could afford it, and I didn't know if it'd be worth it. And I had so many like ifs, ands, and buts, and I wasn't sure, like, should I do it? Should I not? Guys, I waited for like a year and a half, almost 2 years before I signed up for this thing that I always knew I wanted to do, but it just took me a while to actually do it. I can't believe it. And I actually was signed up for the very last boot camp. It's like a 4-day workshop where you learn everything you need to know in video. Even though I had a degree and whatnot in journalism, I still felt like there's something I want to learn here. And there was a lot to learn and a lot to unlearn. And it was just an amazing experience. But I can't believe it took me that long to do this thing. So one of my pieces of advice for you is just to go for it, because sometimes we make up these excuses like, oh, I don't have a camera, I'm not going to start yet. Or, oh, I need some more money before I do this thing, right? And there's so many things that hold us back. And that was like the beginning of where I realized, like, I'm holding myself back from doing the things that I want to do. Sometimes we're our best, right? We're sometimes our best advocate, and sometimes we're our worst enemy, right? So that's a little kind of backstory on how I kind of found my footing. By doing this workshop, I was inspired to one, now that I bought the education, I now needed to buy the camera, the laptop, the editing software, and literally do it. So I was super motivated to just make this a reality. And it was a lot harder back then to invest in all the stuff, because today everyone here has a phone. How easy is that? You can start right now with your phone and start telling stories. And just realizing now, like, that the curve that I went on it through my career is actually more accelerated, and there's a lot of potential here for you in your career to not have as of a long of a startup and go. You can just start. And so it's an exciting time right now in technology and in all the platforms out there. There's a lot of possibilities out there for you to create something cool. So I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with, I think most of you are familiar with VJ stuff, like being a one man, one woman show. I want to show you I have it's kind of funny. I have, as a one woman show, I call myself a video journalist, and there's so many more words for that these days. Multimedia journalist, backpack journalist. I like this one, shredditor, shooter editor, predator, producer editor. There's a lot of ways to be a multi-hyphenate these days. I think a lot of you in this room you are multiple talented in so many ways. And it's interesting, like, as what I do, I'm my own business. I'm a freelancer, but I'm also an agency. I'm also an influencer. So I have all these different angles at how I attack my business. And you have to learn all the small business stuff too, right? Like, how do you become the HR representative when you need help? How do you be the tax person? How do you do all the legal questions? There's a lot of small businessy stuff to learn as well. You know, we used to say, when we think of just video, it's just producing your video, going out and shooting it and then editing it, and you're done. But it has changed tremendously, as you know, because actually I feel frustrated sometimes because I can spend as much time as I spend making the video after and before doing these things, pitching the show, pitching the piece. So I haven't even started making it yet. And then I get to do the fun stuff, producing, shooting, and editing. And then this one, sharing. The Facebooking, the commenting, the hashtag research, like all of that stuff takes effort and time. So being your own business, you know, there's a lot of like extra little bonusy things that this process involves. So it's wonderful, fun to kind of do it all. It's awesome. But, you know, at the same point, what you're signing up for is getting to have your hands in every piece of the pie. And that's what makes it so much more rewarding, because you get to do it, but then also you're like, okay, I have to figure out how to do taxes now, or how do you do sound correction, right? There's a lot of like little things that you can get specific at. And so my solution for that is time. Just give yourself time. Focus on one thing at a time. And then next week, next month, next year, focus on a whole other thing. And over time, you build the skill set that you need. So, you know, when everyone does this patting your head, rubbing your belly thing, I mean, that's like actually really hard. And when you say the alphabet backwards, like X, Z, Y, whatever. But if you learn one thing at a time, you can now add something else onto it later, right? And then you learn another thing and you add another trick. It's kind of like juggling. So that's kind of the fun of what we do as VJs, as one woman, one man bands, is getting to do all that fun stuff. So I want to talk to you guys about some tips and things, but first let me just check in if we have any questions. I see, Mona asked about the boot camp or said something. I know I love that boot camp. Please guys, ask questions as we go. I have things to show you, but this is for you, so you might have something specific. I want to tell you a little bit about this thing that I did when I told you about, oh my gosh, and welcome. I see some new faces. Welcome everybody for jumping in. When I was telling you about me kind of stumbling and procrastinating and signing up for the boot camp, I think these days there's a lot of opportunities that we see out there that you think about, that like you want to put your name in the hat, but you're just not sure, like if you're going to be one of 1 million people or whatnot. And I personally have been in that situation so many times. I have seen jobs posted on the internet and I thought, oh my God, I really want to do this. And I will create a specific video to show people who I am and then market myself to that job application. And that is like the weirdest way to apply for a job. But I have found sometimes that is the magic recipe secret, is like learning how to make a video and telling your own story so that you can get whatever it is that you want. I was recently traveling, let's see, before the pandemic, I saw a job ad on the internet called like the Bumble Global Connector Bee, which said like travel the world, we'll pay you to travel the world. And you go on dates. You go on dates, you make friends and business connections. So your job is to literally meet people in all different formats. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, how are they going to pick somebody? Is it based on voting? Are we going to have to do this, that? It was a 6-month job application. And I'm just so grateful that I actually like sent in the video to begin with, to just put my name in the hat. And eventually, I think out of thousands of people, I remember that I was just so grateful that this ended up being not only my job. I ended up doing like I got the job and another girl got the job and we got to do the job together. So anyway, it was such an amazing adventure. You guys can see more on my website. I see a question here. Do you work for a company that sends you on travel or do you do it independently? So in that case, I had a contract to travel the world for a company and produce content for them. And a lot of times I will also do stuff for like a media company, a network, and what I make for them actually is their content and it goes on their channel. So I think business wise, you can make the same piece and it could go down a different channel, and it could be for the media network, could be for a brand, or it could be for your own channel, like me. As a human, as a TravelingJules, as an Instagrammer, I have my own stuff. So I think these different silos are all places that you can make money and build your business and build a brand, and they're all very different. So don't feel like you have to attack everything, because they all require like a different set of things, but it's nice to know it's possible. If you want to create, you don't have to just wait for a TV channel to call you and ask you to do an assignment, because maybe that's a whole other different version of being a VJ. And maybe you're going to be a branded VJ, and everything you do, you're going to call up every airline. Hey, airline, do you need help? Do you need help? Do you have a social media channel? Can I make content for you? You could also call up magazines. Magazines sometimes don't know anything about video, but they know they need it. And so you can come to them with a lot of expertise to offer your skill set with a different kind of platform. And I guess third, the silo of being an influencer, that one is really entrepreneurial. If you want to make money as a business, it's kind of like winning the lotto in some ways, because everyone thinks they can and not everyone's making a living at it. But there's this like American dream of like, I can do it. But I think to build your brand on Instagram and stuff is super important for your own value, to like have a portfolio of what you do, to remind people of who you are. But as a business, if you want to make a full-time income as it, there's a lot to know as far as analytics, SEO, all that kind of stuff, to just like get the cash flowing on that. But it's very possible. So an exciting time. There's a lot of different business revenues. I see another question here. What's the method when you shoot? Ooh, great question. So people often ask me about my gear, and it definitely dictates how I shoot. I would say when you're traveling, I would recommend pretending like you're on a mountain. because you're going to be carrying a lot of stuff for a long time and it kind of can be exhausting. So you don't want to bring everything you own on your travels, right? You've been there. So like I love to have my big professional camera. This is the C200, which I don't really travel with much unless I'm being paid the big bucks. If I have a network, say we require this camera, I use it. But when I'm making my own content, I actually really like to use other cameras. Like I have, again, lots of, I think of myself as the gear expert. I love to have all the toys, but I would say when I'm focusing on my travel work, I can't possibly have them all at once. And actually, here's a funny photo. What is this? 2012. I wanted to vlog. I wanted to be in my own videos, like a video journalist or an MMJ. But look at that setup. Look at that. Like, come on, guys. I'm holding a huge, heavy monopod, a 5D. There's a light, and then there's a microphone and like a heavy lens, and it's not even wide angle. And so I'm just trying to get it further away, but I knew I wanted to do the story a certain way, but like the gear wasn't working with me. So at that time, these vlogger cameras with the flip screens, with the professional, it wasn't available. And again, this is part of the times that it made it really challenging to do at that time. But I think about that photo because you don't want to let the gear get in the way of telling the story. You want to tell the story and not let the gear get in the way. So here's some funny photos of me with a lot of gear, because this is honestly the essential stuff I needed to tell the story. But, they didn't invent GoPro maybe at that, or maybe it just wasn't very good at that time, right? So as technology is improving and evolving, I love to focus on smaller things. Like you asked about smartphones. Of course, I use my smartphone to shoot, especially for social media, for Instagram stories. I use that all the time because it's too annoying to take a photo or video from my real camera back to the phone. Yes, it's possible, but I end up wasting time and I don't have excitement after that. So I just like to shoot on the smartphone when I know I'm going to put a quick Instagram story out. I like to use a small little like point in. This is actually a mirrorless camera, which is a great choice for vlogging. And I like to have that flip screen. That flip screen is everything. So many cameras they invented over time just like didn't have a flip screen, and it was killing me. If you're ever going to be in your own video, you need the flip screen, and only certain cameras have it. And some of them go to the side and some of them go above. As long as it goes around all the way, you're good. And then you need the microphone. So sometimes the microphone can be in the way. Here, I can show you an example. Here, I have an example. This is a little small camera that I like. That's a point and shoot. And when there is no microphone actually hole at all. So if I'm doing selfie mode like this, I had to like add a small bracket to add a bracket for a microphone. So sometimes you have to like relocate where the microphone sits, but a lot of cameras now you have to have a microphone jack to be able to plug in a microphone. Not all of these small cameras do, but honestly, I have every kind of flavor of camera that I've configured to make work. And that's because with traveling, I'm always finding myself in situations where I need something small and lightweight, but I want the quality of a big camera. So what is the thing that will give it to me? Here's another example. I have that flip screen, but because the flip screen had the microphone jack up here, I had to move it to the side. And now this works really well for me. This is the one you see in the photo here, I think. But yeah, gear wise, I think when you're traveling, you got to be lightweight and small and nimble. I have a pretty big camera, what I travel with. Let's see. This one is my biggest one that I kind of reserve for when I'm being paid the big bucks. It's even very small for the technology today. It's the EOS C70, and it's tiny, and it has a really big processor in there, like the C300. So it's the same quality of what those big cameras for reality TV shows that they use, but it comes in a small package. And for me, I'm always willing to trade in price for size and weight. because I don't want to be on the top of that mountain with the thing that's like just a little bit heavier. One other example would be this. Okay, this thing, the tripod. I have a really great travel tripod because and it's carbon fiber, which is slightly lighter weight than aluminum, which is slightly cheaper, but I'd rather pay a little more to have carbon fiber, which is lighter weight and very sturdy. Your camera will not fall down if you have a great, like, and again, something small like this, it actually folds over itself so that now it's even bigger because it has like this part and this part. So anyway, when you're traveling, you're just going to need things that, you know, fold down and rearrange and really easy stuff. One other gear thing I just want to mention as we're talking about travel, I really love the GoPro these days when I put it on a suction cup. This is one of my favorite tools because I just suction it to the front of the car and then I can connect to it when I'm inside the car and I can turn it on and off for road trips, or I stick it on the window in the airplane. And I just feel like it's neat to have this, or there's also one with a clamp and you can like just attach it to the top of like an ATV. I'm thinking creatively. I've stuck it on a kayak. So I just find, you know, this is so waterproof and it's automatic. So it's just a neat camera to like just shove anywhere. And I just put it in my pocket if I just if I'm not really sure what's happening today, but I want to be ready for anything. I have the GoPro kind of like handy. So that's just a little bit on gear. I don't want to bore you guys. I know everyone has their favorite stuff. But anyway, I definitely, as far as must-haves, the last thing I guess I'll mention is that I definitely recommend you've got to have a microphone. That quality of your sound is just, you can never fix it if it's bad. You know, that's the thing, that if I could spend a lot of money on something, it would be the microphone first, because people will not watch your video if they can't understand what you're saying. So that is key, is audio. Then the picture, we love to have it be good. I like to have a selfie stick or a tripod or a gimbal. Sometimes I have all of those things, and sometimes I look like I have a lot of gear because I'm picky, but at least one of those things will be helpful for you. I love to have a padded bag. When I'm really on the go, I'll bring like a purse or something small, but it still has to be protective because I just throw that anywhere and it just lands on the floor. It's squished into something, and you just got to have it safe. Lens wipes, lens cloth, batteries. I always am running out of batteries. That is actually one thing I'll mention I don't really like using my smartphone as my only camera because you can't, yes, I have that like battery pack, but just being able to swap out a battery or a memory card, like, oh my God, I ran out of memory, switch it, and then it's safe. I think that's so important. And for example, if I'm going somewhere with my GoPro and my whole vacation is on this, excuse me. So I will want to put that memory card safe before I go on something slightly risky, like say surfing. If I lose the GoPro surfing, I don't want to lose the whole trip's worth of important information, right? So having that extra memory card can be actually safety for you as well. So you're never really risking like all of it. What else? Oh, I also have this website called The Video Hustle. This is something I made during the pandemic, but this is where I put all of my recommendations for gear and articles and things related to video production. So I think you're going to love it. A couple other tips I want to share with you about being a travel person. You don't have to have $1 bazillion to travel, and you also don't have to actually travel to be a travel journalist, because where you live is traveling for somebody else. So don't feel like you need to, spend your life savings on a vacation to try this new career called travel journalism. I would say start while you're home and think about what's cool about your neighborhood. They might be cool street art. There might be a neat little restaurant that makes the best little biscuits. There might be, there's a Denver selfie museum. There's all kinds of stuff around here. And make a video, or you can work with the local businesses if maybe they need help with a video. And you can become kind of a travel expert for people who are visiting you. So don't be afraid. I've actually worked with Visit Denver, because I'm in Denver, Visit Colorado, and every little tourism board in the mountains, Visit Colorado Springs, Visit Steamboat Springs, Visit Winter Park, Visit Vail, Visit Aspen, Visit everybody. I know all these people. And so because we're all in state, we meet up regularly. We have these little tourism meetings. And I think that's a great way for you to be a partner and create work and opportunities for yourself. So think about that. I see a question here real quick. How do you pitch, and who do you pitch to? And are you inspired to come up with stories? Ooh, good question. Well, as we're talking about these tourism boards, they are one client in travel. They're the obvious client. Well, yes, you have your airlines, you have your hotels, you have your websites, right? Like your Kayak, your Airbnbs, those are all potential clients, but they can be so big. Sometimes it takes a while for them to get decisions, and they have ad agencies they like to work with. So I think of them as like, would love to have clients, but they're not like the first phone call, because you really need to understand like the corporate world to get in the door, to even get anywhere. But when you start with someone local, especially these small businesses, and your local tourism boards, something that you know that you can give to them that they need is they need to promote and build awareness about their destination. So anything you do that's beneficial to them screaming on the rooftop about how cool their place is a win. So if you were like this weekend, I was at the hot air balloon Labor Day liftoff in Colorado Springs, and I made a cool little video. And I made it for my channel, but I sent it to the tourism board to say, hey, look what I did. You might enjoy sharing it, because like, hey, there's one more day of this festival. You could tell more people about it. And then they reshared it on social media. So I think there's like this lovely like relationship of now the conversation is open. And now next time you have some idea, hey, you know that new park that's coming in? Do you need video for that? Like you have more, they already know who you are, and you have an example to show them. So I think there's a lot of ways to kind of develop a pitch, even though it's not a formal, like, I have an idea for you. It's more of like a relationship before a formal pitching, if that makes sense. Somebody also asked me about Colorado. What group are you with? Oh, somebody else was also here in Denver. I would say it's interesting, like the travel business, it's a real industry where specifically within communications and PR, here in Colorado, we have like regular meetups. So the PR people can tell all the travel journalists what's new. And it's symbiotic, because it's like, I need to know cool stories, and then they want to share their message. And so it's just a matter of like regularly hanging out with them to learn what's new. And so actually we're jumping ahead, but I did want to tell you a couple secrets that I wanted to show you. Here we go. This is about your network, building your network. It's so important, as we were just talking about working with tourism boards, to just put your name in the hat. And for travel, here is a list of many, not all, travel conferences that I know of, that I have probably been to, where I can face-to-face meet people. And something like what we're doing now is amazing, because you can see who's in the participant list and Google them and make friends and hang out on LinkedIn and whatnot. But also, I love that in-person meeting where you have a chance to bump into someone at the water cooler or giggle about the shuttle being late, and you have just like that other connection to kind of, hey, what do you do? And it's not so weird. And a lot of times that, you might see a name tag and you might not know how to talk to them, but at least you know they're there. And then tomorrow you're going to go find their booth, right? So I think conferences, I hope they're not a thing of the past, but the in-person conference brings like-minded people together, and you have a chance to organically meet these brands that interest you, and not just like potential clients, but also colleagues and partners. Other influencers or other travel journalists, they're going to be there too. And you might watch their work and get ideas. You might need a second shooter, and then you know someone who does specializes in that you can call. I find having allies in other markets is helpful. Like we talked about Denver a lot because I'm from Denver, but there's this weird thing like, you know, being friends with people like your competition, right? Like, oh, if you don't call me, you're going to call them. Like, I'm not going to give you their name. You know, I wouldn't say that's like the culture here. I'm just saying like that when you, any place you are, there's the potential for this competitive nature of like, I'm not giving you the name, or, you know, it can get kind of like just a little tricky. And what's nice about having friends in other markets is that you're never really competing. And so you can share those deep, dark secrets. Like, I'm having a really hard time getting work right now, or I'm getting no traction on this post, or whatever. Like, I don't know what's the best microphone, but you can ask other people. And there's no reason why they won't be helpful to you if they're in another market. Now, I would tell you the truth though, Colorado is super cool. People, actually, we are friends with each other and we are not competitive with each other. But I just know that some places can be like that, and it's not cool. But that was the old way of thinking, is like, my competitor could have an advantage if I tell them my super secret. And now the idea of like sharing information is so much more appreciated. So I agree. If we can share and teach each other, let's do it. Let's do it. Also, just two more things for video conferences I wanted to show you. I kind of have a similar mindset on like other places you can meet people for video, so not just travel. So here's just a few of them that I know of. One is NAB Show, which is the biggest video production conference for broadcasters. And it's, you know, traditional media. But I'm actually speaking at Post Production World, which is in October. So I'll be speaking there about more video stuff. So hope you can join. But yeah, there's a lot of great conferences to know about. I told you about my new resource, the Video Hustle, but I think I speak highly of the VJ.com. Being able to, at your leisure, watch these seminars and learn, like, amazing. That's one of my tips, is this: never stop learning. I feel so accomplished in my career. I know sometimes I'm speaking to people who are very accomplished as well in different ways. Like maybe you're a photographer and you have a great photography business, but you're learning video. Or maybe you're a real estate person and you're learning video. So there's like things like we can get to the highest part of the mountain, and then you look and you're like, there's another mountain that I want to climb. And that's okay. And that's awesome. It's wonderful to embrace the idea that there's always something to learn, no matter how far and how amazing you are, because things are changing. Things are changing, your interests are changing, and the situation's changing. So here, even during COVID, I was here, you know, trying to make myself busy, not traveling. And I was learning things like how to duplicate myself because, you know, TikTok and whatnot. I was just playing with different video editing strategies, with figuring out how to do cool tricks in editing. Also, something that always kind of, I mean, I've always had a drone, but I've always had a drone, but I've never really like embraced it. And I don't know why. It just has never been like my favorite tool, but I love it. But even during COVID, I've been like, okay, I'm going to really focus on my drone stuff, and I want to get certified. Now I'm certified, but there's always like that one tool or something else that can keep you kind of on your toes. That just is just like, I'm not sure how that works. Like you have to learn a whole lot of new things. And that's the fun of it, I guess, is that you're never completely done. I'd like to say like, good, I did it, check. And then the whole like map changes. I'm going to read another question here. We have one from Sarah. Could you talk a little bit about, oops, it moved on me. Hang on a second. Could you talk a little bit about your research methods? How long would you say you research a place before creating a video? And is there any particular website or that you use for facts? Oh, good question. Okay, so before, when it comes to storytelling, sometimes, so I haven't talked to you guys yet about this, but as a journalist, a lot of tourism boards will do something called a FAM trip, a familiarization trip, or a press trip. And sometimes they'll invite you because they have so many cool things going on. And they're like, hey, would you come to my place and see some stuff so that you can create a story based on your experience? Or maybe you have something you can pitch, and then next time you'll make a story. But they'll call you and invite you to stuff. And with those, sometimes it's an entire itinerary that they're like, here you go, this is what we're doing. And you'll look at it and you're like, wow, this one's family travel. I'm nothing, this is not my beat, right? Or wow, this one's adventure. Like, okay, can I do more of that? Right? There's different things on the itinerary. So I would say, one, sometimes the itinerary is given to you and you do what it is. Just because it's on the itinerary doesn't mean you have to cover it in your story. It doesn't mean you have to say something nice about it. But sometimes you can be very clear, like, hey, I don't do this. Is there something else you might suggest instead of this activity? Right? So there's different things like that. Now, I think what you were asking me about is when you're booking your own travels and telling your own stories. So as a traveler, let's say I want to go to somewhere I've never been. I'm trying to think of a place. Somewhere, can someone give me a place? I'm like, where should we go in this example? La, la, la.
Ecuador.
Ecuador. Oh my gosh, great. I don't know anything about Ecuador. Machu Picchu. Oh my gosh, Italy, San Francisco. Okay, can I go San Francisco? I've been there. But let's say we're booking a trip to San Francisco. I want to go to Machu Picchu's on my list though. So we're going to San Francisco and I've never been there. I need to figure out what to do. One, obviously, you're going to research in advance, you ideally, so you don't just show up and go like, what am I doing? I actually like to travel like that. But if I'm making video, I'm going to waste a lot of time. And so it's not valuable from a work perspective to do that. For vacation, that's fun. But for work, I like to Google and find, resources. There's thousands of them, right? There's Lonely Planet, and almost every tourism board has a dedicated website on things to do. Like Visit Denver has a whole, like they do all the homework for you. Every tourism board, Visit San Francisco, has a website that tells you the fun things to do. And hopefully it's divided into categories that you want to do adventure, click here. You like family travel, click here, right? And I would start there for ideas. Sometimes I look at tours that already exist to see where they're stopping at. And I know those are the major places. Some people's travel blogs have nothing to do with the hot sites, and they want to show you restaurants or they want to show you hidden gems. And those are a little harder to research. You'll really tap into your Facebook friends, those posts on, you can post in a group, like, where do you guys recommend? Asking friends for advice, the old word of mouth way. But there's a lot of ways to come up with story leads. And I would say, give yourself plenty of time to do that research so that you can have, like, with travel, you got to know, like, what time of year is best. Some seasons it's mud season, some seasons it's super crowded. So you have to figure out, like, when should I go? How, right? Like, experiencing a place by bike is so fun and freeing, but like not every city can you go on a bike because it'll take forever to get from A to B. So just figuring out kind of like those little logistics, nuts and bolts. Weather, we in Colorado, we wear layers, so you could be ready for any weather at any time. But kind of like being able to plan your trip the way you normally would plan your trip, but with a little extra care to the details, because when you're carrying extra gear, you don't want to carry it around too much longer if you're lost. Sometimes there's areas that they're not so safe to be carrying around big, expensive cameras. That's why a small camera and a phone is sometimes best, because nobody will notice you. And you can get cool shots that nobody knows, like you're shooting for a really important thing. So yeah, with travel, there's a whole bunch of fun safety and logistics and all kinds of things to add into your thing. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. Let's see, one more question. What's your advice? Oh, but you did ask, sorry, go back to Sarah real quick. She did say something about facts. If you're going to be in your video, I rely on two things for a host. One, I rely on facts that I know, like this is where we are, like the who, what, where, when, why. This is why we're here. The specifics on like, is it busy? Is it crowded? Like, is it fun? Is it sad? What's the tone? Those kinds of things. But I also really heavily rely on mood, like my feeling, my character, my personality. I like to include, we call them wild lines for hosting, right? Where you just kind of walk in and you're like, whoa, it's cold in here. And then you share the fact, right? Sometimes those extra like moments where you're like, whoa, that's a huge sandwich, is not actually scripted, like say, but it's your real reaction, and it brings someone into your video way better than saying like, they sell 935 sandwiches a day. Like, who cares? But you'd be like, whoa, I get it. I can't even, fit this in my mouth. I'm gonna have to get a fork and knife, but just those little things make your videos a little more fun. But definitely having some kind of plan for what you're going to say is important. Jessica, you asked a question. What's your advice for good sources online to learn video editing tricks? Ooh, good question. Okay, so when we're talking about editing, I really think for me, there's YouTube, and I have a couple friends that do YouTube editing, like Premiere Gal. She's awesome. If you Google stuff, you'll find her. Other editing questions, you're going to Google the question and find people, and you'll keep repeating that person. And so they're probably like a reliable, business. But when it's free content on YouTube, you sometimes pay in time because it takes them a while to get to the thing. And sometimes the information is actually wrong because it's the way they do it, but they didn't show you the 5 other ways to do it. So I think there's like the benefit of that. But I personally like to learn in a structured way where I'm learning from the experts who know what they're talking about. And that's why a resource like the VJ.com is so reliable, because you can get what you need in the time that you need it, right? You know what you're going to get. And that's why when I'm speaking at the PPW, I enjoy like a weekend of that, a weekend of heavy learning, so that every session you go to is of interest to you, and it's from somebody who's an expert at it. And you're just like really growing a lot in a short time. And so you're focused on it and you can ignore all your distractions. I think for me, that's the best way to learn, is like going to that resource and buying the boot camp, right? Doing the few days in a row to just nail it. And then later you can apply that knowledge as you go. So if you don't apply it, you'll lose it. That's the only problem we know. So yeah, somebody asked me as well to talk a little bit more about that event. For PPW, I'm speaking about social media and what's my other topic? Oh, the video journalism, like one man banding stuff. So that's my angles for PPW. What else? I'm sorry if I missed your question. Post it again in case I did. A couple more I see. Are you getting model releases when you walk into random people? Okay, you might notice this in my storytelling. The one person that I can always count on, who's always available with a free model release, is this one. So I often rely on me telling the story because I know I have fair usage of that. But when I'm being hired by a network, I do love to do interviews with the shop owner or the expert, somebody who's a colorful character. I like to ask them questions about what they're up to. And the model release part is, there are ones on your phone, easy release, where you can use their release. But I just find on your phone, it's annoying because they have to fill out all these tabs and forms, and it takes like a long time before It's not, if you have paper, people will sign it and they don't even read it and then they walk away. It's easier, even though it's paper. So you have to carry paper. But I find a lot of the apps, it just going through the steps sometimes just takes a while when I'm like, I could be shooting, but I'm here 10 minutes. And then they're like, oh, so what do you do? And it becomes this whole thing. Just sign my paper, sign the release form. So anyway, yes, you should definitely get a model release. The challenge with that is also like, who is it for? If it's for you, you need a lawyer to make you model releases. If it's for a network, they're going to hand you a release form that they need. But if ever I can hire an extra person or bring a friend, I do like to assign that job to somebody else, because of that, like time, it's a little bit of a time suck. But what's cool is if it's, I guess in some ways, if they're the person you're interviewing, it can buy you time to like gain confidence with them. So you're like, oh yeah, like I was working with so-and-so last week, and here they start to like, you build a rapport when you have a little more time with them. So sometimes this whole sign my paper thing becomes more of like oh, I trust you, you're legit, and it can actually be helpful. So get that done, get it done first so you don't forget. And sometimes if you can send them an email and not even deal with it in person, that's the best way to do it. But sometimes you don't know who you want to interview. So it depends. I know we're running down on time. Brett, what do we have? We have 5 minutes left.
Yeah, we can go a little over if need be.
Okay. So if anyone has a question that it's burning, stick it in there. And of course, I'm always available. I want to show you my, let's see, my business card too, in case anyone wants to contact me or has other questions. I'm happy to connect. I have actually 3 websites, which might sound kind of crazy. But I wanted to share with you. Oh, one thing I wanted to share with you before we go is something I think is really special for what I do. Maybe not every video journalist needs this, but I wanted to tell you about building your brand. For me, I find like, obviously I love pink and I love airplanes and traveling, passports. For me, like, I feel like I try so hard to build a brand around TravelingJules and who I am. Like, I'm adventurous, I'm fun, yada, yada. Like, I'm not like hard news kind of person, but for you as a video journalist, I feel like this section of it was never necessary or important in our careers in this business. But I feel like today it is very important to build your own brand as a resource. So that means running your own social media. That means trying to get your handle on your videos if you can, or some kind of like credit, or asking for permission to show the video on your channel so you can reshare it. I feel like there was a point in my career where I realized I don't want to be just another videographer that like could be, if I don't answer the phone, like they're going to call the next person on the list. Then if not, they're going to call the next person, right? Like I wanted to offer something that was a little bit different and a little more unique. So I kind of built my own personality into my career so that when you call Jules, you're going to get a little bit of a Jules twist. You're going to get how Jules sees the world involved into that piece. If I'm not in the piece, you're still going to get something like my style, my flavor. I'm going to use a monopod or whatever. I'm going to do time lapses or whatever those things are. So I would just say, as you guys are building your career, don't be shy about that piece of being known for what you do and reminding people of what you do, because it works. It works for you. It'll work for you. It'll pay off in the long run, I think. So just a little piece on branding. One more question I see. How do you set up your solo multi-camera shoots? Glenn, amazing question. And it's wonderful to see you. And I see Jasmine here too. Hi there. Great question. I'm kind of crazy. I mean, I'm not like your average video journalist who's usually with one camera, but I think a lot of video journalists these days are multi-camera people, but it's not required. But what do I do with all these cameras? And that's helpful to have multiple when you're doing multicam, because you have your standard interview shot and then you have that cool side angle. And then if they flub, you could also cut to the other angle or the B-roll, but you have like more choices. And I would say some of the photos you see of me when I have all these backpacks is because I have like another camera like in that backpack. So when I'm traveling, I try not to bring too much stuff. So there's kind of this like thing of like, I'm filming at home, I can play with all the toys. If I'm traveling, I can't. And so I'll show you one last thing. I just feel like you guys might be interested, but I have to figure out where to put all this stuff. Hold on. I think you saw a picture, but like, this is kind of a large video journalist backpack compared to my face, I guess is kind of big, but it's actually standard size. Like it fits under a, the carry-on under the seat. And inside here, I can fit 2 DSLR cameras with the full lens and 2 GoPros. I put a tripod, sometimes a gimbal. There's a water bottle. I have a little zipper for all those like lens cloths and essentials, extra batteries, ND filters. I think that's it. So in this small bag, which is actually big, I can carry around multi-camera. And the way that I do it, and again, this is not traditional, but I will walk around with one on my shoulder, which is like got a zoom lens, like a 70 to 200, and I'll get all the close-up shots with that. And then the other shoulder is like the wide angle, and it might be on a gimbal. If not, I might have something like a GoPro, something small. Like I just have some other wider option so that at any moment when you're traveling, I like having, I'm so artistic that I want to have the options of like close up, far away, but I don't have time to say, hey, stop, let me change lenses, or hey, wait, like, could you do that again? I don't always have that luxury. So I like to have the 2 cameras ready, just to do that. But when you're in public, that can be challenging because now people are looking at you. You look, depending on what city you're in, it could be sketchy. But I find that like when they're on my body, like not on tripods, I'm just finding that's like a neat way to shoot my style. But I guess I'm trying to think of more specifics for your question for solo multi-camera. One of my other secrets is to set the cameras up at home so that they're like the same frame rate and they're the same autofocus and they're the same everything. And that way, when you're in the field, there's like 30 other things going through your head. So like you just know, like, I'm going to get the camera out, they're ready, apart from focus and exposure, you're good. So there's a couple things like planning in advance can help you with those multi shoots. The flip screen, if you can see what you're seeing with both cameras too, that's essential because when especially if you're filming yourself, solo multi-camming, to be able to have an eye, oh, I'm still in the frame. Oh, no, I'm not, and then there you see, the flip screen, you're like, oh, I should, just trying to maneuver this flip screen. They're helpful. Okay. One more question. John, personality is a big part of growing your brand and having a successful video career. I don't think I have a very good personality for video. Is there a way to overcome this shortfall? This is a great question. And I think that's what's unique for me is that I love the on-camera stuff and I've built that into my brand. But I don't think everybody needs to be like an on-camera personality in your brand, right? That's not necessary, but go with your strengths. Like if you're super nerdy at DIY gimbal stuff, like be the nerd that's like super smart about that, right? Maybe you're super shy and inquisitive. That's fine too. Like it sounds to me, John, that maybe you're curious about being on camera. And in that case, if your question is about how to be on camera when you're not really comfortable yet, I would say my biggest advice is to video yourself, and painful as it is, watch it. Really, you're going to hate it. And you're like, oh my God, why did I say it? And like, oh, my face looks weird. Or, there's things that you're like, oh, my hair, I should do that. No, next time I'm going to do it this way. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to wear glasses. No, I see glare in the glasses. You know what I mean? Like there's different things that you'll notice when you watch it that oh my God, I say all the time, or whatever those things are. I think you just have to painfully practice. And it's helpful too to practice in different scenarios, like, and then give up. So do like a minute worth and then let it go. So you try while you're home where no one is around, and that's like a different kind of awkward than when you're out on the side of a park and there's people walking by looking at you. It takes a different level of practice for your mental health. Is like, oh my God, everyone's watching me. And a different level of practice when you have like a client or security guard watching you and they're just like and they don't care how good or bad you do, but the fact that they're there just changes everything because they're your client and you want them to love you, and it would be weird if you messed up, but you might mess up. And so I would say just practicing in all those situations will make you better on camera. Also, it will make you a better editor, because if you come home and you hate your on-camera presence, you will be able to find a creative solution to not use it. Like, I'm going to use my voice, but I'm going to cut away to B-roll, and that's fine too. So I hope that's helpful. Brett, I see you smiling there. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, we've all been in that situation. Do you want me to keep going? I'm happy to, and I love that everyone's still here. I know.
Absolutely. As long as there are questions still coming in and you don't mind, you have some time, we'd love to hear more from you.
Okay, great. And Kay, I see you attentively listening. If you have any questions, feel free. Or I know some of you, Mona or Eva, Glenn, thanks for your question. But yeah, and Lynn, I see your camera's off. If anyone wants to chime in or just type it in, don't be shy. I'll let you ask in real life if you want to be on camera. Mona says Toastmasters is a good practice. Yeah, I think I've never done it, but I know some friends here who have. I'm very curious about that. I think speaking live is also a slightly different skill than being on camera, and not having that laughter or other people reacting is a different skill set. So all of it's helpful, but nothing's like being in front of that inanimate object and having no reaction if it's good, and putting it on YouTube and seeing what people say. But we can always delete it from YouTube too. I also wanted to say Instagram stories is a great place to get started with on camera, because they disappear, and you have to talk in 10 seconds. So it's really a good kind of motivator to just talk to your phone a little bit. Mona says there's a club in New York. That was really fun too. SEC Rough Riders. Cool. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of resources for the on-camera stuff, but the behind the camera stuff it's important too. And it's interesting because I think being a VJ, so I actually enter the Heartland chapter Emmy Awards often, where I will submit my best work that I've done that's focused on a regional audience to the regional Emmys. And a lot of people will, I'm sorry, where was I going with this? I had a great connection and now I'm losing it. Emmys.
Behind the camera?
Behind the camera. Well, I'll just tell you about the Emmys, I guess. Oh, that's it. Thank you, Brett. That was helpful. So I would enter the Emmys, and one of the categories is almost always called video journalist. And I remember being like, that's my category, because that's what I do. And I'd put in submit my favorite video. But one year I remember thinking, do I have to be in the video to be publishing it in video journalist? Because I could have made an entire story without being a host in the video. And I guess I throw this question back out to you guys, but like, is it necessary as a video journalist to be in the video? And I guess I never got the answer to that, but I think there's two sets of skills here, is like being a video journalist who does it all: producer, shooter, writer, editor, host. and then just being the video journalist that's not the host, producer, shooter, writer, editor, I think you eliminate a lot of the challenges as not being the host. But the story completely changes too. Maybe it's all interview driven or music driven or something else. But I like knowing both angles of the production because I feel like I do a really good job making myself look good because I know how cameras work. Like something like this little point and shoot, which has a wide angle lens, yes, I can get close to it and see not just my nose hairs, right? Like I could see like from here to here with the wide angle, but the wide angle also kind of bends your face a little so it looks wider. And that's not always the look you're going for. So if I was if that wasn't a style, if I was just filming like a headshot or something, I'm not going to use the wide angle lens. I'm going to go with like something that zooms more so that my face looks more like it really looks in real life, just so that you look better. Even something as simple as when you're traveling, being at eye level, just being slightly above, now I look kind of short, but people don't know how short I am because I'm always at eye level. So I feel like there's a lot of great secrets that when you're good at shooting and then editing, you can like just use your best moments if you know how to tell the story and put B-roll around. So there's a lot of great nuggets there for you guys who are becoming experts and pros and probably already are. But maybe the travel stuff is a little different. So anyway, it's been so much fun talking to you. I think I see a couple more questions. I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to officially say goodbye in case anyone has to go. It's been wonderful having you. I'm going to stick around though and answer any more questions like this one. Linda, any disasters or failures I can share? Oh my gosh, I've had so many. I think one of my disasters is right in front of me, which would be I can't say this too loud because Michael might kill me if he knew my secrets. But I feel like there's this amazing skill set to be really efficient and shoot. If you have a 1 minute story and you can film 1 minute's worth of video, like you are baller, like you're amazing, right? I feel like sometimes I shoot a lot more because I really have things like I really want in there. And so I've developed this unique editing style where I shove a lot of stuff in there and I edit it really quickly. So that's like part of my style now because I have so much cool footage that I want to share. But disaster is that now I have a lot of footage living on hard drives that I have to deal with. Like kind of, if you've ever met someone who's a TV news videographer or you are one, if you shoot every day, how many bazillions of hours of footage you end up with. And you can't possibly archive everything you've ever done forever. But sometimes you can try. So I would just say like one disaster for me would be like having this like amazing, but yet overwhelming library of footage from every adventure.